Car 1968, The Ghosts Beneath Mexico City. In 1979, a psychologist boarded the last train of the night. She did not believe in ghosts. She believed in synapses, firing and trauma responses in explanations that could be measured and documented. But when she struck a flame in that pitch-black subway car, the person sitting across from her had been dead for 11 years. And the thing that made her scream was not seeing a ghost. It was that the ghost knew her brother's name. Mónica Reyes had not taken the subway in 11 years. For more than a decade, she had found every possible excuse to avoid the tunnels that ran beneath Mexico City. She took taxis even when they cost half her daily wage. She walked kilometers under the scorching sun or the torrential rain. She waited hours for buses that never came on time. Anything, absolutely anything, to avoid descending those concrete steps into the earth. People assumed she suffered from claustrophobia. She let them believe it. The truth was far more complicated, buried so deep that even she had learned to pretend it did not exist. At 34 years old, Mónica had built a life designed to keep certain memories at bay. She was a clinical psychologist specializing in post-traumatic stress disorder, which carried a certain bitter irony she refused to examine too closely. Every day she helped patients confront their darkest moments, guided them through the labyrinth of their trauma, taught them that avoidance only gave fear more power. And every day she returned to her own carefully constructed walls, her own sealed doors, her own buried dead. She was good at her job. Her colleagues respected her. Her patients trusted her. She had published papers on trauma recovery that were cited in academic journals across Latin America. She had married Eduardo 3 years ago, a gentle civil engineer who never asked why she flinched whenever someone mentioned the Plaza de las Tres Culturas on the evening news. They had a comfortable apartment in Coyoacán, a small garden where she grew tomatoes, a life that was pleasant and predictable and safe. But she kept a photograph in her wallet that she never looked at. A young man with curly black hair and intelligent eyes wearing a medical school uniform. Her brother Hector, 26 years old in that photograph. 26 years old forever. The family said he had gone to study abroad. Paris, they told the neighbors, or was it Germany? The story changed depending on who was asking. He writes sometimes her mother would say, though no letters ever arrived. He is doing well, her father would add, though his eyes would go distant and hollow. Mónica learned to nod along, to accept the fiction, to never ask the questions that burned in her throat, because asking meant knowing, and knowing meant remembering. And remembering meant acknowledging that on October 2nd, 1968, when soldiers opened fire on thousands of students in Tlatelolco, her brother had been standing in that plaza, her brother who had begged her to come with him that day, her brother who had smiled and promised to tell her everything when he returned. He never returned. The conference had run late. Mónica stood on the sidewalk outside the Hotel Presidente on Insurgents Avenue, clutching her leather briefcase, watching her breath form small clouds in the April night. This was wrong. April in Mexico City should not be this cold. The chills seemed to seep from the concrete itself, rising from somewhere deep underground. She had presented her research paper on political violence and collective trauma to an audience of fellow psychologists who nodded politely and asked careful questions. Nobody wanted to speak too directly about Tlatelolco, not even among professionals, not even 11 years later. The wounds were too fresh, the government's eyes too watchful, the consequences of honesty too severe. Now it was 11:15 on April 17, 1979, a Tuesday night, and the avenue stretched empty before her like a dark river. No taxis, no buses. The streetlights flickered in an uneven rhythm, casting pools of yellow light separated by stretches of shadow. Mónica tried the public telephone on the corner. The line was dead. She tried another 50 meters down. Also dead. She thought about walking home, but Coyoacán was at least an hour away on foot, through neighborhoods that grew increasingly dangerous after dark. 50 meters away, the green glow of a metro sign pulsed against the darkness. She felt it before she consciously registered it. A tightening in her chest, a quickening of her pulse, the primal recognition of danger that evolution had hardwired into the human brain. The last train would leave at midnight. She could be home in 40 minutes. All she had to do was walk down those steps, board a subway car, and ride through the tunnels that ran directly beneath the Plaza de las Tres Culturas, directly beneath the place where her brother had vanished. Some fears are irrational, she told herself. You teach this to your patients every day. Avoidance reinforces anxiety. The only way out is through. She was a scientist, a professional, a grown woman who had spent her entire career helping others face their demons. She walked toward the metro station. The stairs descended into fluorescent light that buzzed and flickered overhead. The walls were covered in ceramic tiles, some cracked, some missing, entirely revealing the concrete beneath, like wounds in skin. Water dripped somewhere in the depths, a rhythmic plinking that echoed through the empty passage. Monica bought her ticket from a machine that hummed with electrical current. The platform beyond the turnstiles was nearly deserted. Perhaps 10 people waited for the train, scattered along the length of the platform like survivors of some unnamed catastrophe. She noticed the old man first. He sat on a metal bench in the corner, his clothes worn and dirty, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. His lips moved constantly, forming words she could not hear. A rumbling emerged from the tunnel. Air pushed ahead of the approaching train, carrying with it a smell she could not identify. Metal and moisture and something else, something organic, something wrong. The train burst from the darkness, its headlights cutting through the gloom like the eyes of some great mechanical beast. It squealed to a stop, doors opening with a pneumatic hiss. Monica boarded the middle car. She chose a seat near the door, positioning herself for a quick exit. Her briefcase sat on her lap, a barrier between her body and the world. The car was nearly empty. A young couple sat at the far end, whispering to each other. A few workers in factory uniforms slumped in their seats, exhausted from the night shift. An old woman clutched a rosary, her fingers moving over the beads with mechanical precision. The doors closed. The train lurched forward. Monica watched her reflection in the dark window, a pale woman with circles under her eyes, lines of worry etched around her mouth. She looked older than 34. She looked like someone who carried secrets too heavy for her frame. The train stopped at Cuauhtémoc. The young couple exited, their laughter trailing behind them. Nobody boarded. Balderas. 3 of the factory workers stumbled out, leaving behind the smell of machine oil and fatigue. Salto del Agua. The remaining workers departed. The car grew emptier with each stop. Monica noticed the old woman with the rosary watching her. As the train pulled away from the platform, the woman crossed herself and made a gesture toward Monica. A blessing or a warning, perhaps both. The train map on the wall showed 2 more stops. Tlatelolco, then Indios Verdes, the end of the line. She stared at the word Tlatelolco, and the letters seemed to pulse with the rhythm of her heartbeat. Her stomach tightened. Her mouth went dry. The only other passenger in the car was a man sitting at the far end, his head bowed, his face hidden in shadow. He had been there when she boarded, she realized, had not moved, had not looked up. The train slowed. Through the window she saw the lights of Tlatelolco station approaching through the darkness. Pale fluorescent glow, empty platform, ceramic tiles that might have been white once but had yellowed with age and neglect. The man at the end of the car stood. His movements were stiff, mechanical, like someone who had forgotten how bodies were supposed to work. He walked toward the doors without looking at Monica. But before he stepped onto the platform, he stopped. He turned. And he looked at her. His face was ashen. His eyes were hollows filled with something she could not name. Fear, perhaps, or knowledge, or the particular despair of someone who has seen what waits in the dark. "Do not stay alone," he said. His voice was hoarse, as if he had not used it in years. "Get off. Wait for the next train. Do not ride through the tunnel alone." Then he stepped onto the platform and vanished into the shadows beyond the reach of the lights. Monica wanted to follow him, wanted to ask what he meant. But her legs would not move. Her body had become a prison, trapping her in that seat. The doors remained open. The platform lay empty before her. She counted the seconds. 20, 21, 22. The temperature dropped sharply. Her breath formed thick clouds of vapor that hung in the air like small ghosts. The cold was wrong. Impossible. This was April, 40, 41, 42. She smelled something beneath the cold. Metal and moisture and rot. The smell of old blood, the smell of earth that has absorbed terrible things. 60, 61, 62. The lights inside the car began to flicker, rhythmic, deliberate. 3 quick pulses, a pause, 3 more pulses. 80, 81, 82. The fluorescent tubes overhead sputtered, died, flared back to life, died again. Each time, the darkness lasted a little longer. 90 seconds. The door should close now. The train should move. This is what happens. This is how subways work. The doors hissed shut. The lights went out. Complete darkness. Absolute. Impenetrable. Monica could not see her hand in front of her face. She was suspended in a void of pure black, connected to reality only by the cold metal of the seat beneath her. The train did not move. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, nothing. She was alone in a metal box buried under the earth in the darkness in a place where something terrible had happened 11 years ago. Something that her family refused to acknowledge. Something that she had spent her entire adult life trying to forget. Monica fumbled in her briefcase. Her fingers found the cold metal of her Zippo lighter, a relic from her smoking days that she carried more from habit than necessity. She had quit cigarettes 5 years ago, but she had never been able to abandon the lighter. Some part of her needed to know that she could summon fire whenever the darkness grew too deep. Her thumb found the wheel. She hesitated. Do not strike the flame, something whispered in the part of her brain where instinct lived. You do not want to see what waits in the dark. But she was a psychologist, a scientist, a rational woman who had dedicated her life to helping people face their fears. She did not believe in voices. She did not believe in darkness. She did not believe in things that waited. She struck the flame. Orange light bloomed in the blackness, pushing back the shadows, illuminating a small circle of the subway car. The seats across from her, the floor, the metal poles, and the girl sitting directly in front of her, close enough to touch. Young, 19, perhaps 20. Beautiful in the way that youth is always beautiful. Dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. White blouse with a Peter Pan collar. Navy blue pleated skirt. The uniform of a university student from another era, from a time that existed only in photographs and nightmares. But her eyes were wrong. They did not reflect the flame. They absorbed light the way black holes absorb stars, giving nothing back. And on her white blouse, 3 holes. 3 dark circles where the fabric had been punched through. 3 stains that had dried to the color of rust, of old iron, of blood that had been spilled 11 years ago and never washed away. The girl's lips moved. You are Mónica Reyes, she said, not a question. A statement, a fact. You are Hector's sister. The lighter fell from Monica's fingers. The darkness swallowed everything. And in that darkness the voice continued, soft as a whisper, cold as a grave. He told me about you, Monica. He told me you were the smartest person he knew. He told me that if anyone could carry the truth, it would be you. He believed in you even when everyone else had given up. He believed you would come. And finally, after all this time, here you are. The lighter hit the floor with a sound like a bone breaking, metal against metal, sharp and final. Monica heard it roll away from her, spinning across the subway car floor, until it came to rest somewhere in the infinite darkness. She could not move. Her body had become a foreign thing, disconnected from her will, frozen in the seat like a specimen in amber. Her heart hammered against her ribs with such violence that she feared it might tear through her chest. The voice continued speaking from the darkness, soft and patient, as if it had all the time in the world. I know you are afraid, Everyone who sees us is afraid at first, but fear passes. Fear is just the mind trying to protect itself from truth. And the truth, Monica, is what you came here to find, whether you know it or not. Monica forced words through her constricted throat. Who are you? I already told you my name. But names are just sounds we use to pretend we understand each other. What matters is not what I am called. What matters is what happened to me, what happened to all of us. The cold intensified. Monica felt it seeping through her clothes, through her skin, settling into her bones. Her teeth began to chatter an involuntary rhythm that she could not control. She thought about her training, about the technique she taught her patients for managing panic attacks. Ground yourself in physical sensation. Name 5 things you can feel, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell. She could feel the cold metal of the seat beneath her, the leather of her briefcase, the fabric of her skirt against her thighs, the violent trembling of her own hands. She could hear the voice in the darkness, the drip of water somewhere deep in the tunnel, her own ragged breathing. She could smell rust and moisture and something else, something organic, something that reminded her of the biology lab in medical school where cadavers lay on metal tables under harsh fluorescent lights. The voice spoke again. You are trying to convince yourself this is not real. I can hear it in your breathing, the way your mind is racing through explanations, hallucination, hypoxia, stress-induced psychosis. You are a scientist, after all. You need everything to fit into categories you can understand. How do you know what I'm thinking? Because I was like you once. I believed in reason, in evidence, in the comforting lie that the universe operates according to rules we can comprehend. I was going to be a doctor, Monica. I was going to heal people. I was going to make the world better through science and compassion. A pause. The darkness seemed to thicken, to press closer. And then they shot me 3 times in the chest, and I learned that reason means nothing to men with guns. Monica's hands found the edge of the seat. She gripped it until her knuckles ached, using the pain to anchor herself to reality. I need to find my lighter. I need to see. Do you? Are you certain you want to see what waits in this car? Some things cannot be unseen. Some knowledge cannot be unlearned. Once you look at us, truly look, you will carry us with you forever. I'm a psychologist, Monica said, and her voice sounded stronger now. I've spent my career helping people face difficult truths. I'm not afraid of seeing. Laughter, soft and sad and utterly devoid of humor. Your brother said something similar, you know, that night in the plaza, when the soldiers surrounded us and we could hear the helicopters overhead and everyone was screaming to run. He said he was not afraid. He said the truth was worth any price. Monica's breath caught. Do not speak about him. You do not have the right. I have every right. He was standing beside me when the first shots came. He pushed me down, tried to shield me with his body. The bullets went through both of us. His blood mixed with mine on the stones of the plaza. We died together, Monica. Our last breaths tangled in the same air. Stop. The word tore from Monica's throat like a wound. Stop talking about him. Hector is alive. He went to France. He writes to us. Does he? When was the last letter? What did it say? Do you even remember the sound of his voice anymore? Monica realized she was crying. The tears felt hot against her frozen cheeks, the only warmth in this impossible cold. She had not cried for Hector in years. She had learned to seal that grief away, to lock it in a room inside her mind and throw away the key. Now the door was being forced open. He is alive, she repeated, but the words had become a prayer rather than a statement. He has to be alive. The floor of the subway car creaked, footsteps slow and deliberate moving toward her through the darkness. Your lighter is near your left foot, the voice said. It rolled under the seat across from you. If you want to see, you will have to reach for it. And if I do not want to see, then we will sit here in the darkness together, and I will tell you what happened that night. Every detail, every scream, every bullet, and you will have to imagine it, which is sometimes worse than seeing. The mind creates horrors far more terrible than reality ever could. Monica understood that she was being given a choice, darkness or light, ignorance or knowledge. The comfortable lie she had been living, or the unbearable truth she had been fleeing. She thought about her patients, the ones who had survived torture, war, abuse, the ones who came to her shattered and left whole. She always told them the same thing. Healing begins with acknowledgement. You cannot process what you refuse to face. She had been refusing for 11 years. She slid off the seat and onto her knees. The floor was cold and wet, though she could not identify the liquid soaking through her stockings. Her hands searched blindly, patting the ground, reaching under the seat. Her fingers closed around the Zippo. She sat back on her heels, cradling the lighter in both hands. The metal had grown warm from her grip. "Last chance," the voice said. "Once you see, you cannot unsee." Monica raised the lighter. She struck the flame. Orange light exploded through the darkness, and the subway car revealed itself. She saw the seats, their orange fabric faded and stained. She saw the metal poles, their chrome surfaces dulled by years of gripping hands. She saw the floor wet with something dark. And she saw the girl. Lucia Delgado sat in the seat directly across from Monica, close enough that their knees almost touched. In the flickering light of the Zippo, she looked almost alive, almost human. The curve of her cheek, the arch of her brow, the delicate bones of her wrists. But her eyes gave her away. They were holes in the fabric of reality, darkness, given form absence made visible, and her blouse. White cotton Peter Pan collar. 3 holes punctured the fabric. 3 dark stains spread around each hole, and from those holes slowly, impossibly, something was seeping. Not blood, not exactly. Something darker, thicker. Something that had been blood once 11 years ago, but had transformed during the long years underground. "You are braver than I expected," Lucia said. "Most people drop the lighter again when they see me. Most people scream." Monica did not scream. She did not drop the lighter. She stared at the dead girl with the clinical detachment that her profession had taught her. "You are not real," she said. "You are a hallucination. I am experiencing some form of dissociative episode." Lucia smiled. It was a terrible thing, that smile. It held no joy, no warmth, only the infinite patience of the dead. "Touch me," she said. She extended her hand, palm up, fingers slightly curled. "Touch me and tell me I am not real." Monica's hand trembled. The flame danced. Shadows jumped across the walls of the subway car. She reached out. Her fingers made contact with Lucia's palm. The cold was absolute. It was not the cold of ice or winter wind. It was the cold of absence, of void, of places where warmth had never existed and never would. It was the cold of the grave. And with the cold came something else, images, sounds, sensations that were not her own. She saw the plaza. Thousands of people packed together, faces bright with hope, voices raised in songs of revolution. She saw the apartment buildings rising around them. She saw the ancient pyramids of Tlatelolco standing silent witness. She heard the speeches crackling through the loudspeakers, the cheers of the crowd, the distant thrum of helicopter rotors growing louder, closer. She felt the first moment of confusion when the flares went up, green lights arcing across the darkening sky, and then the gunfire. It came from everywhere, from the rooftops, from the buildings, from the streets leading into the plaza. Soldiers appeared where there had been none, rifles raised, muzzles flashing. People fell. She watched them fall one after another. She watched a boy no older than 16 take a bullet in the throat, watched the life drain from his eyes. She felt the impact, 3 points of fire blooming in her chest. She felt the warm, wet spread of blood, felt the world growing dim. And she saw Hector. He was above her, his face twisted with anguish, his hands pressing against her wounds. His mouth was moving, forming words she could not hear over the thunder of the guns. Then hands grabbed him. Soldiers in olive green dragging him away from her. He screamed her name. She tried to reach for him, but her arms would not obey. She could only watch as they pulled him into the darkness, and then nothing. a darkness so complete that it felt like being erased from existence. Monica yanked her hand back. The vision shattered. The plaza dissolved, the present crashed back into her with the force of a physical blow. She was gasping, sobbing, the lighter shaking so violently in her grip that the flame nearly went out. "Now you see," Lucia said. "Now you begin to understand." "What did they do to him?" Monica's voice was raw, broken. "Where did they take him?" Lucia's expression shifted. Something that might have been compassion moved through those empty eyes. "He did not die that night," she said. "Not in the plaza. They took him to a place where they take people who have names they want to know, people who have information they need to extract. He was one of the organizers, your brother. He knew names, addresses, plans." Monica shook her head, denial rising even as the truth pressed down on her. Hector was just a medical student. He was not a revolutionary. He just wanted to help people. He wanted to change Mexico. He wanted justice. He wanted democracy. These were crimes in the eyes of the men who ruled this country. "I do not want to know," she whispered. "Please, I cannot bear it. You must bear it." Because he could not tell anyone. Because he died alone in the dark with no one to hear his screams. Because for 11 years his family has pretended he is alive, and that pretending is a second death worse than the first. He deserves to be mourned, Monica. He deserves to be remembered. The lights in the subway car flickered. Once. Twice. On the third flicker they stayed on, weak and sputtering, but enough to banish some of the darkness. And Monica saw that she and Lucia were no longer alone. They filled the car. Dozens of them, hundreds, sitting in every seat, standing in every available space, pressed against the windows, crowding the aisles. Young people, students, boys in jeans and cotton shirts, girls in skirts and blouses, all of them bearing wounds, all of them watching her with eyes that had seen the other side of death. A boy near the door was missing half his face, the left side blown away by a bullet. A girl clutching the pole had a wound in her stomach that still leaked dark fluid. Two young men slumped against each other, their necks clearly broken. And at the far end of the car, standing alone, was a figure she recognized. Tall, thin, curly black hair. The blue shirt she had given him for his birthday now stained dark with something she did not want to identify. He stood with his arms at his sides, but something was wrong with his arms. They ended at the elbows. Below that there was nothing, just empty space where his hands and forearms should have been, and his eyes, his beautiful, intelligent eyes. They were gone. Two dark holes stared at her from a face that was still impossibly the face of her brother. "Monica," he said. His voice was the exact same voice that had called her for dinner when she was a child, that had helped her with her homework, that had promised to tell her everything when he returned from the plaza. "Little sister, I knew you would come eventually. I knew you would not forget me forever." She was on her feet without knowing how she had gotten there. The lighter had fallen again, but she did not need it now. The flickering fluorescent lights provided enough illumination to see, to understand, to confront the horror that surrounded her. "What did they do to you?" The words tore from her throat like something alive. "Hector, what did they do?" He moved toward her. His steps were slow, careful, as if he were relearning how to walk. The crowd of dead parted to let him pass. "They wanted names," he said. "I would not give them. So they took things from me. First my eyes, so I could not see the faces of the men who hurt me. Then my hands, so I could not write down what I knew. Then other things. Things I will not describe because some horrors should remain unspoken." He stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the details of his wounds. "But I did not tell them," he said. "I protected the others. I kept their secrets. And when they finally killed me, I died knowing that my silence had saved lives." Monica reached for him, then stopped. She was afraid to touch him, afraid of what she might see. "Why are you here?" she whispered. "Why are all of you still here?" Lucia answered from behind her. "Because they buried us in secret. Because they told our families we had run away or gone abroad or never existed at all. because they built this subway station on top of our graves, poured concrete over our bones, and pretended we had never lived. We cannot leave, Hector added, until someone speaks our names, until someone tells the truth, until the world knows what happened in that plaza and who was responsible and what they did to the bodies afterward. The dead in the subway car stirred. Hands reached toward Monica, not threatening but beseeching. Mouths opened, forming words she could barely hear. Remember us. Tell our story. Do not let them erase us from history. The weight of their need was crushing. Monica felt it pressing down on her, all those souls, all those unlived lives, all those stories that had been silenced. I am just one person, she said. I am no one. I have no power, no platform, no way to fight the government. You have a voice, Lucia said. You have a reputation. You have written papers about trauma and survival. People listen to you, Monica. Hector moved closer still. His ruined face was centimeters from hers. You have spent your whole career helping others face their pain, he said. Now it is time to face your own. It is time to stop pretending I am alive in Paris. It is time to stop letting our parents live in their comfortable lie. It is time to say my name out loud and tell the world what happened to me. Monica was shaking. Tears streamed down her face. They will kill me, she said. If I speak out, if I tell the truth, they will do to me what they did to you. Maybe, Hector acknowledged, but maybe not. The world is watching Mexico now. Killing you would be harder to hide than killing us was. And even if they do, Lucia added, even if speaking the truth costs you, your life, is that not better than living in silence? Is that not better than dying slowly, day by day, under the weight of all the things you were afraid to say? The dead watched her. Hundreds of eyes waiting for her answer. Hundreds of stories waiting to be told. Monica looked at her brother, at the ruin they had made of him, and something changed inside her. The fear did not disappear, it would never disappear, but something else grew up alongside it. Anger, grief, and beneath those a determination that felt like iron being forged in fire. She had been running for 11 years. It was time to stop running. I will do it, she said. Her voice was steady now. I do not know how. I do not know what it will cost me, but I will tell your stories. All of you. I will make sure the world knows what happened in Tlatelolco. The dead did not cheer. But something shifted in the air, a lightening of the pressure, an easing of the cold. Hector raised one of his mutilated arms, pressing the scarred stump against her cheek. The contact was cold, so cold, but beneath the cold she felt something else. Love. The love of a brother for his sister. A love that had survived death, survived torture, survived 11 years of waiting in the dark. I always knew you were the brave one, he said, the stubborn one, the one who would not quit no matter what. Monica covered his stump with her hand, holding it against her face. I should have gone with you that night, she said. I should have been there. No. His voice was firm. If you had been there, you would be here with us now, dead and forgotten and trapped under the earth. You survived so you could speak for us. That was always your purpose. The lights flickered again. The dead began to fade, their forms growing transparent. We cannot stay much longer, Lucia said. The boundary between our world and yours is thin in this place, but it will not hold forever. Wait, Monica said, there is so much I need to know. Hector's form was becoming ghostly, insubstantial, like smoke beginning to dissipate. Look in your bag, he said. We have left you something. Proof, evidence, ammunition for the war you're about to fight. The lights surged blindingly bright for a single instant, then went out completely. When they came back on, Monica was alone in the subway car. The seats were empty. The aisles were clear. No blood, no water, no evidence of what had just occurred. Just a woman kneeling on the floor of a subway car, tears streaming down her face, her hands clutching at empty air. The train lurched into motion. Monica scrambled back into her seat, her mind reeling, her body exhausted. Every fiber of her being screamed that what had just happened was impossible, unreal, a figment of a stressed and overtired imagination. But she could still feel the cold on her cheek where Hector had touched her. She looked down at her briefcase. It sat on the seat beside her exactly where she had left it. Brown leather brass clasps, unremarkable in every way. But when she opened it, she found things that had not been there before. A notebook. Old leather-bound, the pages yellowed with age. On the cover, written in faded ink, Diary of Lucia Delgado, 1968, a student identification card. Plastic, cracked with age, bearing a photograph of a beautiful young woman with dark hair and bright eyes. Lucia Delgado, medical school, UNAM, and a watch. Monica picked it up with trembling hands. She knew this watch. She had seen it every day of her childhood strapped to her brother's wrist. She had helped her parents pick it out for his 18th birthday. She had watched him put it on that morning in October, checking the time before he left for the plaza. On the back, an engraving, "For Hector, our beloved son." May you always value time. Mom and Dad, 1960. And below that, scratched into the metal with something sharp, "Tell them the truth. Do not let me die twice." The train emerged from the tunnel into Indios Verdes station. Fluorescent lights flooded through the windows. The doors opened with a pneumatic hiss. Monica sat motionless, staring at the watch in her hands. The hands were frozen at 11:43, the exact time she had first struck her lighter in the darkened car. The exact time, perhaps, that the soldiers had begun firing in the plaza 11 years ago. Some moments were powerful enough to stop time itself. She gathered the notebook, the ID card, the watch. She placed them carefully in her briefcase. Then she stood, straightened her clothes, wiped the tears from her face. She stepped off the train and into the harsh light of the station. Behind her, the subway car sat empty and silent. On its side, partially obscured by graffiti, she could just make out the number 1968. The taxi driver kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror. Monica knew she must look terrible. Her clothes were damp with something she did not want to identify. Her face was streaked with tears and something darker. She clutched her briefcase against her chest, feeling the weight of the impossible objects inside. The diary, the identification card, the watch, evidence that could not exist, that defied every rational explanation. The streets of Mexico City scrolled past the window, familiar and strange at the same time. Streetlights cast pools of yellow illumination on empty sidewalks. The city was asleep, unaware of what had just happened beneath its streets. Monica tried to organize her thoughts. What had she actually experienced? A hallucination, possibly. Stress-induced psychosis. Her subconscious mind finally breaking through the walls she had built, forcing her to confront the grief she had been avoiding for 11 years. But the briefcase was heavy. The objects inside were real. The taxi stopped outside her building in Coyoacán. Monica paid the driver without counting the bills and stumbled out onto the sidewalk. The night air was warm, a stark contrast to the impossible cold she had experienced in the subway car. Her building was a converted colonial mansion, 3 stories of weathered stone and wrought iron balconies. She and Eduardo had the top floor. It had always felt like a sanctuary. Tonight it felt like a threshold, a boundary between the world she had known and the world she was about to enter. She climbed the stairs slowly, each step requiring conscious effort. The stairwell was dark, but she did not bother to turn on the lights. She had spent enough time in darkness tonight. The apartment was silent when she entered. Eduardo's shoes sat neatly by the door. The bedroom door was closed, a thin line of darkness beneath it. Monica did not wake him. Instead, she went to the bathroom, locked the door behind her, turned on the shower as hot as it would go, and stood beneath the spray for an hour. When the water finally ran cold, she stepped out and dried herself. She wrapped herself in her robe. She brushed her teeth, stared at her reflection in the mirror. She looked the same brown eyes, the same sharp cheekbones, the same lines around her mouth. But something was different, something behind the eyes, a knowledge that had not been there before. She picked up her briefcase and carried it to the small study at the back of the apartment. She closed the door, turned on the desk lamp, and sat down. For a long moment she simply stared at the briefcase. Her hands trembled as she reached for the clasps. The first thing she removed was the student identification card. She held it up to the light. The plastic was old-yellowed and cracked. The photograph showed a young woman with dark hair and bright eyes, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. She looked happy, hopeful, alive. Lucia Delgado, Faculty of Medicine, National Autonomous University of Mexico, student number 1968-0827. Monica set the card aside and reached for the diary. It was heavier than she expected, the leather cover worn smooth by years of handling. She opened it to the first page and began to read. The handwriting was neat and precise. The ink had faded to brown in places. January 15th, 1968. I start this diary on my 19th birthday. Mama gave me the journal, said every doctor should keep records of their thoughts. She does not know I intend to be a different kind of doctor than she imagines. Not one who treats symptoms, but one who treats causes. Not one who heals bodies, but one who heals a nation. The student movement is growing. Every day more people join us, more voices added to the chorus. We are not radicals, whatever the newspapers say. We are patriots. We love Mexico. We simply believe she can be better than she is. My friend Hector Reyes shares my vision. He is older than me already in his final year of medical school, but he treats me as an equal. He says I have fire in me. He says fire is what Mexico needs. I think I might be falling in love with him. Monica's breath caught. She read the passage again, tracing her brother's name with her fingertip. Hector Reyes, her brother, described in the words of a girl who had loved him. She turned the page. March 3rd, 1968. Today we distributed pamphlets at the medical school. The administration has forbidden political activity on campus, but we do it anyway. What can they do? Expel all of us. There are too many. Hector spoke to me after the meeting. He asked about my family, my dreams, my plans for the future. I told him I want to work in public health, want to bring medicine to the communities that have been forgotten by the government. He smiled and said that was beautiful. He said I was beautiful. I could not sleep last night. I kept thinking about his smile. The entries continued, page after page, documenting the months leading up to October. Monica read them all, watching the hope build, watching the movement grow, watching the relationship between Lucia and her brother deepen. She learned that Hector had been one of the organizers, a liaison between the medical students and the broader coalition. She learned that he had spent nights at secret meetings planning demonstrations. She learned that he had been brave and idealistic and utterly committed. She also learned that he had talked about her, about Monica, his little sister, the psychology student who preferred books to protests. He had described her as the smartest person he knew, stubborn as a mule, but with a heart bigger than she would ever admit. Reading those words, Monica felt something crack open inside her. All these years she had assumed that Hector had forgotten about her when he joined the movement. But he had talked about her, had loved her, had planned a future that included her, a future that the soldiers had stolen. She turned to the entry dated October 1st, 1968. Tomorrow. I cannot sleep. I keep thinking about what might happen. The rumors have grown worse. There are soldiers everywhere now. Hector came to see me tonight. He brought a flower, a chrysanthemum, white and perfect. He said it represented loyalty and devotion. He said after tomorrow, after the rally, he wanted to talk about the future, our future. I did not tell him, but I already know what I want that future to be. A life together, a medical practice together, children who will grow up in a free Mexico because their parents refuse to be silent. Whatever happens tomorrow, I will not regret being there. Some things are worth dying for. The next entry was different. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, as if written by someone whose hands would not stop trembling. October 2nd, 1968, 7:30 p.m. We are in the plaza, thousands of us. The apartment buildings rise around us like canyon walls. The ancient pyramids stand behind us, silent witnesses. Hector is on the platform speaking through a megaphone. His voice carries across the crowd, strong and clear. He's talking about democracy, about freedom, about the Mexico we will build together when this is over. I am so proud of him. 8:00 p.m. helicopters. I can hear them now, the thudding of their rotors getting louder. People are looking up, pointing at the sky. Hector has stopped speaking. He is looking at the helicopters too. Something is wrong. Green flares are going up, 3 of them arcing across the darkening sky. They are beautiful in a terrible way. The crowd has gone quiet. Hector is looking at me. Across the platform, across the crowd, he's looking directly at me. He is mouthing something. I love you. And then the shooting starts. The entry ended there. Monica turned the page with trembling fingers, expecting more. The next page was blank. And the next, and the next. She flipped through the remaining pages, frantically searching for any additional text, until the very last page. The handwriting here was different, steady, deliberate, written not in faded ink but in something darker, something that had dried to a rusty brown. Blood. The words were written in blood. To whoever finds this diary, my name is Lucia Delgado. I was 19 years old. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to heal people. I wanted to make Mexico better. On October 2nd, 1968, soldiers shot me 3 times. I died on the stones of the Plaza de las Tres Culturas, surrounded by the bodies of my friends. They never found my body. They never told my family what happened. Hector Reyes died too, not in the plaza. They took him away. They hurt him. I heard his screams from the darkness where they buried us. If you are reading this, Monica, then you have found what we left for you. The diary, the identification. The watch that stopped at the moment the shooting began. You are our voice now. You are the one who must speak for us. Do not let them bury us twice. Lucia Delgado. Monica closed the diary. Her hands were steady now, the trembling gone, replaced by a calm that felt almost unnatural. She understood that she had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. She picked up the watch and examined it again. The hands were frozen at 11:43. The moment when time had stopped for Hector Reyes, she pressed the watch to her chest. All her life she had believed that the world operated according to rational principles, but some things could not be reduced. Some events were too enormous, too terrible, too saturated with human cruelty. The massacre at Tlatelolco was one of those events. Hundreds of young people gunned down in a public plaza, their bodies disposed of in secret, their families fed lies for more than a decade. And her brother had been among them. Not just killed, but tortured. Not just silenced, but erased. Monica had participated in those lies, had accepted them because accepting was easier than questioning. But the dead would not stay buried. She spent the rest of the night reading and rereading the diary, memorizing names, memorizing details, building a case in her mind. When dawn began to lighten the windows of her study, she made her decision. She would do what Lucia had asked, what Hector had asked, what all those dead students had asked. She would tell the truth. Eduardo found her in the study when he woke. He stood in the doorway, still wearing his pajamas, his hair disheveled from sleep. He looked at her with concern. "Monica," he said, "what happened? Where were you last night?" She looked up at him. Her husband of 3 years, a good man, a kind man. "Sit down," she said. "There is something I need to tell you." He sat. He listened. She told him everything. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "What are you going to do?" Monica picked up the diary, held it out to him. "I am going to tell their story," she said. "I am going to find Lucia's family. I am going to confront my parents. I am going to write about what happened and make sure the world knows the truth." Eduardo took the diary. "Read the final entry." "This could be dangerous," he said. "The government has killed people for less. I know. They could come after you, after us, I know." He looked up at her. His eyes were wet, but his jaw was set. "Then I will stand beside you," he said. "Whatever happens, wherever this leads, I will not let you face it alone." Monica felt something shift in her chest, a warmth spreading through the cold place where her fear had lived. "Thank you," she said. He squeezed her fingers. "Do not thank me yet. Thank me when we survive this." 3 days after the night on the subway, Monica stood on the sidewalk outside a faded blue door in the Tepito district. Number 47, Calle de la Luna. The address that Lucia had written in her diary. She had dressed carefully that morning, choosing simple clothes, modest clothes. She had no idea what she was going to say. The door was answered by a woman in her early 60s, her hair gray, her face lined with weariness. She wore a house dress and slippers. "Can I help you?" Monica's throat constricted. "Are you Carmen Fuentes de Delgado?" The woman's expression shifted, hardened. "Who is asking? My name is Mónica Reyes. I have information about your daughter, about Lucia." The name landed like a physical blow. Carmen's face went pale. Her hand gripped the doorframe. "My daughter has been missing for 11 years, she said. "The government says she ran away." "The government is lying," Monica said. She pulled the diary from her bag. "Your daughter died on October 2nd, 1968. She was shot 3 times by soldiers in the Plaza de las Tres Culturas. And before she died, she kept this diary." Carmen stared at the book. Her face contorted through a series of expressions: denial, anger, grief, hope. "How do you have this?" Monica took a breath. The truth would sound insane. "Your daughter gave it to me," she said, 3 nights ago on the subway." Carmen's eyes went wide. She stepped back, crossing herself. "You saw her. I saw her. I spoke with her. She asked me to bring this to you. She wanted you to know what happened. She wanted you to know that she did not run away." For a long moment, Carmen simply stood there. Then slowly she reached out and took the diary. She opened it to the first page, read the familiar handwriting, began to weep. "Come inside," she finally said. "Please, come inside and tell me everything." They sat in the small living room, surrounded by photographs of Lucia at various ages. Carmen served coffee that neither of them drank. She held the diary in her lap, turning the pages slowly. Monica told her about the subway, about the darkness and the cold and the dead girl who had appeared from nowhere, about the hundreds of other spirits who had filled the car. Carmen listened without skepticism. In Tepito, where the old beliefs ran deep, the idea of spirits returning to deliver messages was not madness. "She asked me to tell you something," Monica said. "She asked me to tell you that she loved you, that she did not want to leave you, that her only regret is that she never got to say goodbye." Carmen broke down completely, great heaving sobs that released 11 years of accumulated grief. Monica held her. When the tears finally subsided, Carmen looked at Monica with eyes that had been washed clean. "What about the others? The other families who are still waiting?" "I will find them," Monica said, "one by one. I will tell them what I know. It will be dangerous. The government does not want the truth to come out. I know, they could kill you. They could." Carmen reached out and took Monica's hands. "Then let me help you," she said. "I know other mothers, other fathers. We have been meeting in secret for years, sharing information. We call ourselves the Committee of Mothers." She paused, and something fierce entered her eyes. "We are tired of waiting, Monica. We are tired of lies. If you are willing to speak the truth, we will stand beside you. All of us, together." Monica felt the weight of the moment. This was bigger than her own grief. This was a movement, a reckoning. "Yes," she said, "together." 1 week after meeting Carmen, Monica arrived at her parents' house in Polanco. Eduardo came with her, his presence a steady anchor. Her mother answered the door with a smile that faded the moment she saw Monica's expression. "Mija, what is wrong?" Monica walked past her into the living room where her father sat reading the newspaper. She stood in the center of the room, the watch clutched in her hand, the watch that her parents had given Hector for his 18th birthday. She held it up so they could see. Her mother's face went white. Her father's newspaper fell from his hands. "Where did you get that?" Her father's voice was barely audible. "Hector gave it to me," Monica said, "on the subway." Her mother sat down heavily. Her hand went to her chest. Monica, her father said. He stood, moved toward her. Mija, you are confused. Hector is in Europe. No. Monica stepped back. Hector is dead. He died on October 2nd, 1968. He was tortured and killed by soldiers who wanted him to give up the names of his friends. She saw it then. The flicker in her father's eyes. The moment of recognition. You knew, she said. You knew all along. Her father's face crumpled. We had no choice, he said. They came to us the week after the massacre, men in suits. They told us that Hector was dead, that his body would never be found, that if we ever spoke about what happened, they would do the same to you. He looked at her. We did it to protect you, Monica. Everything we did, every lie we told, was to keep you safe. Monica felt her anger warring with her compassion. She had spent 11 years believing her brother was alive. You should have told me, she said. You should have trusted me with the truth. We were afraid, her mother said. We were so afraid, Mija. They killed our son. They could have killed all of us. Monica looked at her parents. She saw them clearly now, not as the omnipotent figures of her childhood, but as human beings flawed and frightened. She could not forgive them, not yet, perhaps not ever. But she could understand. She placed the watch on the coffee table. This needs to end, she said. The silence, the lies, all of it. I am going to tell the truth about what happened to Hector. And I need to know if you will stand with me or against me. Her father looked at the watch. They will destroy you, he said. They have destroyed everyone who has tried to speak out. Maybe, Monica said. But I would rather be destroyed telling the truth than survive by living a lie. She turned toward the door. Monica. She turned. Her father stood in the center of the living room, the watch in his hands, tears streaming down his face. Your brother would be proud of you, he said. He always said you were the brave one. The weeks that followed were a blur of activity and fear. Monica contacted journalists, human rights organizations, international observers. She compiled the testimonies of the mothers and fathers who had been waiting 11 years for news of their children. Most doors remained closed. The government's grip on information was strong. Editors returned her submissions with polite rejections. Politicians refused to meet with her. But some doors opened. A reporter at a small opposition newspaper agreed to publish her account. A professor at the university offered to host a private symposium. A priest in Tepito opened his church for meetings of the Committee of Mothers. The movement grew slowly, carefully, like a plant pushing through concrete. Each new voice added to the chorus. Eduardo stood beside her through all of it. He handled the logistics, organized meetings, ensured that she remembered to eat and sleep. When she woke screaming from nightmares, he held her until the trembling stopped. When she received anonymous threats in the mail, he installed new locks on their doors. Because the dead deserve to be remembered, because silence is complicity, because some things are worth risking everything for. The Committee of Mothers grew to include more than 50 families. They met weekly in the church basement, sharing stories, building a collective memory. Together they compiled a list of names. 347 students confirmed dead or disappeared on October 2nd, 1968. The government continued to insist that only 44 people had died. They called the Committee of Mothers hysterical women conspiracy theorists. They sent agents to infiltrate the meetings, but the mothers would not be silenced. October approached like a gathering storm. The committee planned a memorial for the 11th anniversary of the massacre. It would be the first public acknowledgement of the true death toll. The government warned against it, threatened consequences, sent police to patrol the streets around Tlatelolco. But on the evening of October 2nd, 1979, they came anyway. The Plaza de las Tres Culturas was transformed. Thousands of candles flickered in the darkness, each one representing a life lost. The ancient Aztec pyramids rose behind the crowd, silent witnesses. Monica stood near the center of the plaza, Eduardo on one side, Carmen on the other. Around them, the families had gathered holding photographs of their lost children. The government had sent soldiers to observe. They stood at the edges of the plaza, rifles held across their chests, but they did not interfere. When her turn came to speak, Monica climbed onto the makeshift platform near the spot where Hector had stood on that terrible night. She looked out at the sea of faces, the flickering candles, the photographs of the dead. She thought about Lucia, about the diary, about the words written in blood. She thought about Hector, about his ruined face, about the love that had survived death. She opened her mouth and the words came. "My brother died here," she said. Her voice carried across the plaza. His name was Hector Reyes. He was 26 years old. He wanted to be a doctor. He believed that Mexico could be better than it was, and he was willing to give his life for that belief. She paused. "For 11 years my family told me he had gone abroad. For 11 years I believed them because believing was easier than knowing. For 11 years I let my brother remain buried in silence, unnamed and unmourned, because I was afraid of what the truth would cost me." She held up the watch. "But the dead do not forget. They wait, they watch, and when the time is right they find ways to speak." The crowd was silent. Thousands of faces turned toward her. "I am here tonight to say my brother's name. Hector Reyes. I am here to say that he was murdered by soldiers who swore to protect him. I am here to say that his body was hidden, his death was covered up, and his family was threatened into silence." She lowered the watch. "But I am not silent anymore. We are not silent anymore. 347 names, 347 lives, 347 stories that the government wanted us to forget." Her voice rose. "We will not forget. We will never forget. October 2nd is not forgotten. It will never be forgotten. And every year on this night we will return to this place and speak the names of our dead until the truth is acknowledged, until justice is served, until Mexico becomes the country that our children died trying to create." The crowd erupted, not in cheers but in something deeper, a sound that was part grief and part defiance. Monica stepped down from the platform and was immediately surrounded. Mothers embracing her, thanking her. Journalists asking questions. Carmen weeping and laughing at the same time. Eduardo found her in the crush of bodies. He pulled her close. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it." Monica looked around at the candles, the faces, the photographs, at the soldiers standing impotent at the edges, at the ancient stones that had witnessed so much blood. "No," she said. "We did it, all of us, together." The ceremony continued until dawn. Names were read aloud one by one, each followed by a moment of silence. Songs were sung. Stories were shared. For the first time in 11 years, the dead of Tlatelolco were mourned openly, publicly, without fear. When the sun rose, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber, the crowd finally began to disperse. They left their candles at the base of the pyramids, thousands of small flames that would burn until the wind extinguished them. Monica returned home exhausted, exhilarated, emotionally drained. Eduardo helped her up the stairs, guided her to the bedroom. She slept for 14 hours straight. No nightmares, no visions. Just the deep, dreamless sleep of someone who has finally set down a burden they have been carrying for too long. When she woke, the afternoon sun was streaming through the windows. Eduardo sat in the chair beside the bed reading a newspaper. "How do you feel?" Monica considered the question. "I feel lighter," she said, "like something has been released." Eduardo smiled. He set down the newspaper. "I have something to show you," he said. "Something strange." He led her to the study, to the desk where she had left the diary and the identification card and the watch. The diary was gone. The identification card was gone. Only the watch remained sitting in the center of the desk. Monica picked it up. The inscription was still there. The message scratched into the metal was still there. But the hands of the watch had moved. They no longer pointed to 11:43. They pointed to the current time, ticking forward, second by second, as if the mechanism had suddenly remembered how to work, as if something that had been frozen for 11 years had finally been set free. Monica stared at the moving hands. She thought about Lucia, about Hector, about all those spirits trapped in the darkness beneath the city. She thought about the ceremony in the plaza, the names spoken aloud, the silence finally broken. Perhaps that was what they had needed. Not vengeance, not justice, not even truth, just acknowledgement. Just the simple act of being remembered. She set the watch on the desk and watched the seconds tick by. "They are free now," she said. "They can rest." Eduardo put his arm around her shoulders. But Monica knew that freedom was never complete, that some wounds never fully healed, that the work she had started would need to continue for years, decades, perhaps generations. The government would not surrender easily. The truth would not be acknowledged without a fight. There would be setbacks, dangers, moments when all seemed lost. But the silence had been broken. The names had been spoken. The dead had been remembered. And that was a beginning. Outside the window, Mexico City sprawled toward the horizon. 20 million people going about their lives, most of them unaware of what had happened in the Plaza de las Tres Culturas 11 years ago. But some of them knew now, and more would know tomorrow, and more the day after that. The truth was like water. It found cracks in every wall, seeped through every barrier, wore down every obstacle. "There is work to do," she said. Eduardo nodded. "There always is." They walked out of the study together, leaving the watch on the desk, its hands ticking steadily forward, measuring the seconds of a future that the dead had helped to create. Monica paused at the doorway. She turned back to look at the watch one more time, and in that moment she could have sworn she heard something, faint, distant, like voices carried on a wind from very far away. Thank you, we will not be forgotten." She smiled. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she smiled. "No," she whispered to the empty room, "you will not be forgotten, not ever again." Then she turned and walked into the light. In the years that followed, Mónica Reyes became one of the most prominent voices in Mexico's human rights movement. She testified before international tribunals. She wrote books that were banned in her own country but read around the world. She helped families find the remains of their loved ones buried in mass graves that the government had denied existed. The Committee of Mothers grew into a national organization. Every year on October 2nd, they returned to the Plaza de las Tres Culturas. Every year the crowds grew larger. Every year more names were spoken into the night. The government eventually acknowledged that more than 44 people had died in the massacre. They never admitted the true number. They never revealed where all the bodies were buried. They never held anyone accountable. But the silence was broken. The truth was spoken, and the dead were no longer forgotten. Monica kept the watch on her desk until the day she died 40 years after that night on the subway. Her children inherited it and their children after them. It still works. It still keeps perfect time. And sometimes they say when the hour hand reaches 11:43, it pauses, just for a moment, just long enough to remember. Some say that if you ride the Mexico City Metro late at night on the anniversary of the massacre, you can still hear them. Whispers in the tunnels, footsteps on empty platforms, the sound of a crowd singing songs that were banned 50 years ago. Some say that car number 1968 still runs on line 3, though it never appears on any official schedule. They say that if you board it alone, if you sit in the darkness when the lights go out, you might see them. Young faces, old wounds, eyes that have seen the other side of death. They say the spirits are not angry. They do not seek revenge. They only want to be remembered. They only want their names spoken aloud. They only want the world to know that they lived, that they mattered, that their sacrifice was not in vain. And they say that if you listen carefully, if you quiet your mind and open your heart, you can hear them still. October 2nd is not forgotten. It will never be forgotten. We are here. We are waiting. We will always be waiting. Until memory becomes truth. Until silence becomes speech. Until the living finally learn to honor the dead. If you have made it this far, I want to ask you something. Have you ever experienced something you could not explain? A presence in an empty room, a voice in a silent corridor, a feeling that someone was watching from just beyond the edge of sight. Have you ever ridden a subway late at night and felt the hair rise on the back of your neck? Have you ever looked into the darkness of a tunnel and wondered what might be looking back? The dead are all around us. They walk the same streets we walk. They ride the same trains we ride. They wait in the spaces between moments in the shadows between streetlights. Most of the time we do not see them. We are too busy with our lives, too distracted by our phones and our worries. We have forgotten how to look, how to listen, how to remember. But sometimes when the conditions are right, the veil grows thin, and the dead reach through desperate to be heard, desperate to be acknowledged. Mónica Reyes was chosen because she was ready, because her brother was waiting, because the truth had been buried long enough. But there are other truths still buried, other stories still waiting to be told, other spirits still riding the trains beneath the cities of the world. Perhaps you are the next one they are waiting for. Perhaps tonight when you close your eyes you will hear them calling. Perhaps tomorrow when you wake you will remember. And perhaps if you are brave enough, if you are stubborn enough, if you carry enough fire in your heart, you will do what Mónica did. You will speak for the dead. You will break the silence. You will make sure that those who are lost are never forgotten. October 2nd is not forgotten. It will never be forgotten, and neither will you.